Hi, Matt with eTrailer. If you have a 2023 Ford Transit T350 and you want to carry those pretty heavy bikes, but you want a way to load and unload them pretty easy too, then the Yakima OnRamp LX bike rack is going to be a great way to do that, especially since this has a ramp built in. So let's check it out. And this is a pretty sturdy carrier. It is mainly made out of steel. And if I go to shake it, we are going to get it to move a little bit, and that's mainly because it does have a pivot point on here. So anything with a pivot point is already going to shake. And I'm putting a decent amount of pressure into this. It is moving, but we still have plenty of space in between our bike and our vehicle. Now, if you're on some really bumpy roads going a little bit faster, you might make contact. I don't think it's very likely, but I'd still keep an eye on it. Now, it's also going to have a weight capacity of 80 pounds per bike, and we're going to be able to carry 2 of them. Now, that's only going to drop if you're going off-roading. Now, if you're going off-roading, so I just watch out for carrying those really heavy bikes. But a lot of times that is going to reflect into its tilt-away, because we do have a tilt-away on this, and the way they manage to still maintain those really heavy bikes on here is it's going to use a 2-pin system. Now, I'm not a big fan of the 2-pin system. We're going to have one here that we're going to completely remove. If you're just going to wiggle it some, might have to lift up on the carrier too, never come out. And then this other one, we're just going to squeeze and lower. So, not a biggest fan of it, but to be able to carry these heavy bikes, it's worth it. As you can see, it's a little bit tricky trying to grab it from back here, so I might even have to move a bit. Really, it's going to be easier if you have 2 people to do this. Once you finally manage it, then you can lower it down. This will be great if you need to get to anything that's on the back of your motorhome. And it's also going to be great if you want to put this on your regular driving vehicle. So if you have a hatch on your car, you need to access that, that's going to allow you to do it. And to put it back into that seated position, all we have to do is lift up on it until it clicks into place. I like to move it a few times just to make sure it fully attaches. And then we're just going to manually reach back here and plug this secondary pin back on. Now we want to take a closer look at this rack. I'm going to have to remove my bike. So where I like to start is with these straps. They're going to apply pressure to your wheels, make sure they stay in place. What's nice about this too is this is a pretty long strap. You don't want that getting in your way. We actually have this point we can tuck this into to make sure we don't roll over it when we're trying to take it off. With that one out of the way, I'll just repeat that process on the back side, pressing this tab and releasing it. And once you have both of these off, we can go to our main attachment point, which is going to be the center mass. Also easy to operate. It's just going to be this strap that kind of acts as almost like a clamp up here. You press on this tab, push it through. Just make sure you maintain control of your bike so it doesn't fall over. There we go. What I like to do is try to swing this out of my way. And now you have 2 options. I can just pick it up, take it off that way, or we could really showcase and talk about the ramp. So I'm just going to put it back on real quick to showcase that ramp, because I don't want to have it balancing there by itself. So let's check out that ramp now. So there's a few things we got to do to use this ramp. First, we just got to remove this knob. Try not to lose it too. I'm just going to put this off to the side. I'll pull it off, slide it through. Now you're probably thinking this is pretty short for a ramp, but this actually comes in 2 pieces. If I flip it around, that's going to reveal another knob. Put that off to the side. Then I can separate them. And then you notice we still have those 2 bolts, and we got some holes over here, and we're actually going to put those through each other. And now we're just going to secure it down with both the hand knobs, because this is recommended to do with both hand knobs, since you're going to be using this with some pretty heavy bikes. Once you have this completely attached, we're going to have one side that has these 2 prongs. And you're going to stick that into the end of these trays. You can choose whichever side you want. You could use the back end, or you can use the front end. Just up to you. I'm going to use it on the front end because it's nice to have options if you're in some pretty tight parking spots. So if someone's parked too close to you on one side, you have the other side to go from. And I'm going to come back up to my bike, make sure I fully remove this strap. And now this can be a little tricky sometimes just because we are going to have our pedals getting in the way. So a few things you could do is just try to lift up around it, or you could try putting down your mass. All you have to do that is reach around here, you'll find a knob, and then push it down that way. That can be a little bit tricky sometimes since you might run out of hands. As you can see, that pedal's already trying to get in my way. So I might just lift up a bit and push it down. So either way, you're still going to have to work around your pedals if you have some larger ones. But with that out of the way, it's going to be much simpler rolling this down. Just pushing it off like this. And with it off completely, you can take it out for a ride. With that bike off, you're going to start putting everything back into place. So once you have reassembled your ramp, just make sure you put it back on the carrier just so you don't lose it. As you can tell, that was a little bit of a struggle using this ramp. There's a lot of steps to it, so if you're looking for other options out there, we have plenty. The Saris MHS bike rack doesn't come with a ramp, but you can get a ramp added onto it, and it secures just at the end of one of these trays, and it's super easy to use. But you also want to make sure you put these straps back on. You don't want that dangling around as you drive. You can leave them in this position. I like to put them back into these ratcheting positions, just in case they ever were to fall back out. And if you didn't put that center mass down, do it now just so you don't drive around with that up. We can also get a few measurements just to see how this is going to live back here. So the first one I'm going to get is going to be a ground clearance, which is going to be 23 inches. Really nice. So even if you do have those heavy e-bikes on here, it might drop down maybe an inch, which is still going to be plenty of ground clearance. The biggest thing is just unloading your bikes, but we have that included ramp, and really that wasn't too steep pushing my bikes off of, so in most cases you should be fine. I'd really just watch out for if you're on uneven terrain. If somewhere is kind of hilly, it might make that ramp kind of steep. The next point I want to measure from is going to be our back bumper, and this is going to be just a little bit over 30 inches. That kind of gives you an idea of how tight of spots you can get yourself into. If you're in some garages or some parking spots, you might be a little bit tight. Now, if you want to save some space, you can fold this up. All I have to do is come over here, pull this pin, the same one we used earlier, and then we're going to pull that second one too, and push up this time. A little bit easier when we don't have bikes in place. Just make sure you grab that pin again, put it back on, so it's not dangling around as you drive. And now the total distance that sticks out is only going to be about 13 inches. So that's going to save you a lot of space. As for how it's going to live back here and what it's going to block, it's not going to block much. Really the only thing it's going to get in the way of is your license plate. But for your taillights and backup camera, it won't block that at all. And the way this is going to install into our vehicle today is we're going to have this 2-inch shank. That's going to go into a 2-inch hitch receiver. Then we're going to have an anti-rattle bolt that goes through and connects to this lock core on the other side. That lock core is just giving us extra security so no one can take our rack. And this anti-rattle bolt's just giving us a really good fit today. It's going to make sure this doesn't rattle too much in your receiver so it'll last longer. In my opinion, if you're looking for something that's going to be able to handle those really heavy e-bikes and come to the ramp right out of the box, it's going to be a great option for you. The biggest downside of this rack is just it's going to be a little bit complicated or a little bit difficult to use in some cases, just since you do have to pull a couple pins and that ramp does take a little bit to get set up. Now, if you're looking for some other options, I'd recommend checking out the Saris MHS bike rack, because what's really nice about that is also a very sturdily constructed rack. You can adapt to it later on, and it's going to be able to handle those heavy e-bikes. But it's a really simple design getting your bikes on and off, especially if you want to invest in the ramp later on. All it does is just hook on to the end of the tray and you're set to go. But that ramp is bought separately. So that's where this really exceeds, not only coming with the ramp, but coming with the ramp integrated into the design. And that kind of stands out to me. And that was just a look at the Yakima OnRamp LX bike rack on the back of our 2023 Ford Transit T350. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.